In 1999, the 4-year cost of the Internet Explorer program at Microsoft had hit the $500 million mark, over $750 million in 2020 dollars. In its early days, Internet Explorer was unquestionably Microsoft's favorite child. Not only was it assigned a $100 million annual budget, but it also had an allowance of $30 million for promotion every year, and funds were growing fast. And these have all paid out very well. By 2003, Internet Explorer was all the rage, with 95% browser usage share, the second largest usage share in history. After the peak, though, came the constant fall. Now, Internet Explorer is the most passionately hated browser of all time. However, it stands tall with over 175 million users, supported by a house of cards built from big enterprises and the search engine Bing. For a big company, success is majorly measured by how much it relies on other companies to make profits. This is why Apple is making its own chips. Netflix makes its own disappointing originals, and Microsoft has its own browser. When Apple announced its divorce from Intel in 2020, the official reason was empowering design in the next era of products. Unofficially, however, Intel was a bottleneck of Apple's progress. Innovation at Intel was slow. Intel's Skylake chip for Macs was a disaster, and deadlines were not considered much of a deadline, leading to Macs being launched with outdated chips. Dependence on third-party products can make or break Apple's success. That is why Apple directly went to in-house production, past AMD. For Microsoft, this bottleneck is Chrome, a browser used by 2.6 billion people globally, and most of the 2.6 billion people use Chrome's default search engine, Google, and whoever is using Google.com is not using Bing.com. In January 2020, over 87% of all searches were conducted over Google, mainly thanks to Chrome. That number, however, is less than 6% or 12 billion searches a month for Bing. But 12 billion is not a small number. It's a big number that comes from scale. A big scale, like 77% of all computers that come pre-installed with Internet Explorer. Whether they forgot it, or are too lazy to change it, or are not good with tech, millions of people are comfortable using Internet Explorer and the Bing it comes with. The story of Internet Explorer is the story of the big guy flexing on the little one. In 1994, the best browser available was Netscape Navigator, a user-friendly graphical browser that stormed the internet. But most people were unaware of its existence for one reason: Microsoft Windows license. At the time, PC vendors had bulk license agreements with Microsoft that restricted them from selling computers with alternative pre-installed apps. Even though the vendors cannot pre-install any apps, Microsoft had all the rights to install their own. Thus, Internet Explorer. Within 4 years of its development, Explorer took over Netscape as the most used browser. The push behind Explorer was not only massive, but also passionate. This is a memo written to Bill Gates in 1998 from records of the Justice Department. We need to go to the top 5 sites and ask them, what can we do to get you to adopt IE? We would be prepared to write a check, buy sites, or add features. Basically, we need to do whatever it takes to drive usage. This all, however, led to the best and, at the same time, the worst move in the history of browsers. With a near monopoly in the browser usage, on August 27, 2001, Microsoft released Internet Explorer 6. Explorer 6 was exceptionally full of security flaws and completely ignorant of web standards. In the meantime, though, thanks to its monopoly, it was the most used internet browser with a 90% market share. This led to 2 problems. First, when the former browser maker Netscape released Firefox in 2004, its improvements over Explorer 6 were so tremendous it effectively made Explorer 6 the most hated browser. Second, at the peak of its success, most companies built their systems around Explorer 6, complicating matters even further. When most in-house intranet systems were built in the early days, they were made for the Internet Explorer that did not follow web standards. These systems, as the tech world was busy improving, were busy expanding. The custom Explorer web application that was built for human resources grew to include finance and production and purchasing, and the regional office, and national office, and international. As time went by, upgrading the system required stopping multinational operations that worked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. For an airline or a bank, for example, improving the system so that it works best with Chrome or Firefox means paying millions of dollars, risking system out of reach, and, worst of all, having multiple ways to access the same system. Unlike Chrome or Firefox, with Explorer, there is little to no surprise. Upgrades can be made through the operating system, customer support comes from Microsoft, and it can perfectly support a system built 20, 30 years ago. Consistency, though, cannot justify maintaining Internet Explorer. What does it is environment. A company in 2019 that uses a system built for Explorer over 2 decades ago still needs Microsoft Windows to run it, and the license that comes with it. From a Windows user, then, it's a small extra step to an Office or Azure subscriber. On the other side of the house of cards is Bing, a $5 billion business for Microsoft. The fact that Explorer's demographics are mainly older people, 54% of which are over the age of 45, with less chance to change default settings, makes it so profitable. These people are likely to be financially established, with family, and can afford what they want to buy. In 2017, 38% of ads audience on Bing had a household income of over $100,000. These are not people who scroll for no reason, do weird dances for strangers online, or are full of college debts. These are serious people with serious money, which makes advertising on Bing seriously profitable. Regardless of how profitable and vital it is for Microsoft, though, for the public, Internet Explorer is one thing and one thing only: the slowest browser that you can download Chrome with. And for a company building an empire, one small black mark is all it takes for it to crumble. Over the years, Microsoft has been giving Explorer a band-aid solution, a fix here and a little more there. The problem is, a band-aid solution will always need another one. That's why Microsoft finally decided to make the Internet Explorer history with its new Chromium-based, not Explorer, named Edge. Microsoft's newest favorite child, Edge, is as bold a project as its predecessor, Internet Explorer. However Microsoft is trying to get rid of it, though, Internet Explorer continues to survive, standing on a house of cards. Thank you for watching this video. If it was interesting, you can subscribe right under the like button.